And we're here at RightsCon 2025 with Lia Holland. Lia is from Fight for the Future, which is a group of artists, engineers, activists, and technologists fighting for a future where technology is a force for liberation, not oppression. An organization focused on technology and the rules governing it, fighting at the intersection of technology and human rights. Welcome to This Week in Cyberspace.
It's so exciting to be here. I've been tuning in for all the RightsCon hype, and very excited to be featured now.
Can I just jump in, Nell? Yeah. Because I don't want to put you on the spot. But Nell, when she received the manifesto that came from you guys after Trump was victorious, she was like, "Who are these people?" She was like, "We need," and like she's looking through the program. She goes, "Fight for the Future are coming to RightsCon. We need to." So this is like a long-awaited moment. I know you guys have already met before in an earlier session, but to officially have you like 1-on-3 or 3 on whatever it is that we're in is great. And I'm also really happy to see you.
Yeah, I think what I loved about that manifesto was that when everyone was in just like a comatose shock situation, Fight for the Future came out swinging, really saying we are going to be leading this pushback.
Yeah, so many people, I think the most common phrase I've heard about the Trump administration is like, who wants to draw the eye of Sauron? And we've very early to the game saying, all right, cast that evil red light upon us. We're ready to go.
I liked it. Yeah, it was like prepare for a world of pain led by us.
Yeah, and like prepare for a world of pain, and not just necessarily the Trump administration, because they don't care. They just don't mind being like wholesale evil. But I think that it's like the complicities that are the things that are important to tease out, and what we're really good at, whether that is like state, city, or local legislators being complicit with the actions that they choose not to take, or corporate accountability as well. They're, like Mark Zuckerberg and obviously Elon Musk, like have, seem pretty morally bankrupt at this point and maybe don't care, but there are a heck of a lot of people who don't want to look at the consequences of their actions, and we are here to direct that magnifying glass, maybe our own little mini eye of Galadriel. I don't know.
Yes, Galadriel. You've got a few tattoos with unicorns and various superheroes.
Yeah, I'm a giant nerd.
Okay, we love that. We were talking earlier today actually about this Nazi salute that Trump gave and how so many people, Musk, sorry.
But it may as well.
Yeah. But how many people did not stand up and comment on that? How many people were just like silent in the face of that gesture that was so offensive? So yeah, it's good to see some action.
Silent or trying to excuse it. That was one of the most jarring moments for me. Even there were some organizations that we had been in conflict with for a while over human rights issues, and to see them come out and say that it was an awkward gesture or something like that. And cough cough, Anti-Defamation League. Yeah. But it was just horrific.
I mean, we all saw that, and I was trying to think about like, what does that like? We all know, everybody knows in the West, at least, that like, and perhaps maybe now of a certain generation, but everybody knows in inverted commas that like that movement is kind of out of bounds. Like nobody does that because they know what it hints at, what it whistleblows for. So there's in my like I could barely watch it, but it's like any sort of excuse like that is a deliberate act. That has to be a deliberate, because you don't find yourself in that position by
accident.
And if you're getting close to that movement, you turn the angle of your hand, right? And there he was.
Or you apologize, or you clarify. And instead what Musk did was to tease around whether or not he was making that gesture specifically with those implications. And what that does is galvanize the Nazis. It tells them like this administration and all of our power and all of our data and all of big tech are like tacitly endorsing what you stand for, which is heinous.
Yes.
And I think it was even last week, like Steve Bannon, who's one of the architects of the flood the zone plan that has been so effective for the Trump administration, was also doing the same thing. It's pretty
Yeah, I saw
disgusting.
that also.
Fight for the Future has been behind some of the biggest online protests in the history of man and womankind and everyone in between. Can you tell us about some of those protests and the role that you played in them?
Yeah, so we are perhaps best known for the genesis event of our organization, which was a fight against the Stop Online Piracy Act, which would have essentially content filtered the internet into nothing. A fight that is resurging now in the United States, and we basically took this piece of legislation that was endorsed by all the celebrities and seemed bound to pass. And through the force of driving many calls to Congress, were able to shock them into sense and kill an unkillable bill. And since then, we have taken those sorts of tactics of turning internet outrage into real political power and directed them at many issues, whether it's surveillance, whether it's these sort of like copyright issues that are really surveillance issues, because in order to have copyright, you basically have to have the surveillance to enforce it, which is really unfortunate and dangerous, and insidious, especially in arts communities who aren't really aware of the systems that they're complicit in perpetuating with this like IP enforcement regime that obviously doesn't benefit artists, who we organize with as well. Very often we organize with authors and musicians and people who have, like both the platforms and the expertise on the impact of a lot of these things that are done in their name to their own communities, and are able to stand up and say, no, don't destroy the Internet Archive. We kind of need that more than ever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the targets of the Trump administration is the library system. So that's a focus for Fight for the Future, to protect libraries and access to information. How's that going?
Dang right it is. It is a big uphill battle, because there's such a culture of really being welcoming to everyone within the library community. Like these people are they're librarians, they're archivists, they're wonderful. They're not like down in the dirt and grapple activists in the way that the conservative forces that are banning books and trying to make it so you can like sue librarians or even sue people for having a little free library or whatever ridiculous thing they're trying to do are, or in the way that we are. Like we really see ourselves as some of the main opposition from the access to knowledge, from the left perspective of defending what libraries do, and also the essential nature of digital access in this time when so many books are banned, and when there are just many people who can't easily make it to a library for whatever reason. We have this incredible resource with digital reading, with audiobooks, and yet those things are locked behind these very expensive licenses that are destroying the budgets of libraries, while also baking surveillance into the operation of libraries. Like if you're using the Libby app or Hoopla or anything like that, that's a list of everything that you're interested in right there. Something that libraries historically fought to defend against in the wake of 9/11, when the FBI was coming into libraries and trying to get reading histories and information on individuals. Librarians fought back. And what's happening now is much more insidious because it's digital. It's invisible, but it's still there.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about surveillance sanctuaries, and sanctuary cities and sanctuary zones. That is another focus for Fight for the Future. These are areas where you can get about your daily business without being surveilled.
Oh my gosh! Well, there's something that needs to exist, and largely doesn't across the United States. Like there's been this wonderful movement for many years amongst migrant justice communities to pass sanctuary cities legislation, which halts cooperation and data sharing between federal authorities and state or local forces. And these laws are like a really incredible patchwork across the United States, cities that are not cooperating, and by not cooperating, really drawing the eye of Sauron again. There's a lot of questions about whether Trump is going to cut the federal funding for these cities or states that are defending people against this like mass federal surveillance and deportation. Like on our side, we see a complementary effort in talking about anti-surveillance states, as it were, that state by state there are so many laws, everything from, we were just talking about today at RightsCon, the idea of passing like NDA protections for whistleblowers so they can't be sued at tech companies, or being able to delete your data and keep it down from data brokers permanently, or like data minimization laws. There's so much that like is patchwork across the country that states have already done that more states could do or move as a package in order to really reduce their complicity wholesale, whether we're talking about undocumented people, we're talking about abortion patients, gender affirming care, or just activists and protesters and journalists, the people who need protection in their own communities now more than ever. There's so much that can be done. And for many, many years, these legislators have been talking the talk, but not really legislatively walking the walk. And if there was ever going to be a time to actually make it happen, now is it.
Yeah. So sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. You're an author as well as an activist. So you create fiction. You've been running some workshops here at RightsCon about the role of fiction in conveying to the public real world tech issues. How have you're building a toolkit to kind of help authors do this. How's that going here at RightsCon?
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I'm having the best time.
That's
So
great.
I got to take like the job and then like the writing, like nerdy stuff, and like find this really rich intersection where we are creating a resource to help authors of fictional worlds of all kinds, like people who write books, but also hopefully Hollywood, hopefully people in publishing who want to do better by the digital human rights community in the works that they represent and they put out in the world, by doing this process of like first a call for short stories that really take on the issue of surveillance technology and the widespread propaganda that many authors, many writers are contributing without even really realizing, because so many stories take on their face the ridiculous marketing BS of the facial recognition companies or the drone companies or whatever company it is that is pushing some sort of like really harmful and bunk tech and saying, well, this is what the heroes use to catch the bad guys, and when in reality that is so far from the truth for so many communities. And we've had these 5 stories that really illustrate different components of resistance to that regime, that system, that way of thinking. And one of the authors actually flew out here and joined us, thanks to RightsCon, and has been participating in all of these sessions that are aimed to build a toolkit that like interrogates each of these 5 stories, which is, the language of authors, the language of fiction creators is the language of story. So we've got the stories for them right there. And then after the stories, what we're going to have in this toolkit is the perspective of human rights experts. Here's what we see here that's done well. Here's what we see that's done poorly or could be done better. Here are the themes that we think could be teased out more in this story, or like, here's what this brings to mind for us. Like what fiction authors need is really like new thoughts to think with when it comes to these to writing fiction that is more just from a text lens. And we are engaging in this effort, which honestly I'm really intimidated to be spearheading, but like of like collecting those thoughts from all around the world, from all these incredible activists that are here with us at RightsCon, packaging them up and saying, here's how to do it, here's how to think differently. Go out, please make these stories that are not only good for like the publishing industry, but that are also good for human rights and digital technology around the world.
So what is the role of fiction in defending human rights in the digital age?
Oh my gosh, it's huge. Like fiction tells us, like fiction does this massive job of teaching us how to think about technology, about what technologies we want, what we don't want, what they actually do and accomplish, and who they fail and who they privilege. And a lot of that work is, like I said, being done without the consciousness or the lens of like the human rights component. And we want to see both better utopias talking about technology that really serves human rights, and also better dystopias that really dig into how the technology is enabling or perpetuating the systems of oppression, and told from the perspective of the people who are being oppressed, and who are resisting.
What's your favorite example of that in the world today? I mean, there's films like The Matrix.
Oh my
there's
God.
all sorts of examples, but what is
Blade
one
Runner.
that actually kind of upholds all those values?
Oh man, well, I'm gonna just take the opportunity to plug one of our short stories here
Okay.
because like it's so fun, and these stories are actually published in the Strange Horizons online literary magazine. They are available for free and really easy to find.
And we might put a link on our podcast for
Yeah.
viewers and listeners who want to get involved.
Yeah, please go read these stories. One of them was written about a like surveillance autonomous zone in the middle of a city, and this murder happens, and they have to interface with like the police, who usually don't get to come into this community. And what the police send is this really creepy robot dog. Oh my gosh.
The robot dog.
The robot
Now,
dog.
which celebrity was recently pictured or photographed with a robot dog?
It was Janelle Monáe.
That's who
really?
it was, Janelle Monáe.
Yeah, Janelle Monáe out there like with
Promoting
the freaking
this.
robot dog propaganda. What are you doing?
We
Like-
need to give her a little
lesson
in
Yeah.
kind of
She needs the
iconography.
manifesto.
Yeah,
Manifesto.
like she's such a like an icon of the
Yeah.
queer community,
Yeah.
and so much of the surveillance that is happening with these sorts of technologies is aimed directly at oppressing, outing, harming queer people, and that is only like escalating in the United States, and unfortunately around the world to a large extent. And so to be pictured normalizing this creepy ass robot dog
Yeah.
is really unfortunate, and I can't believe that she made that choice. So here's hoping in the future she'll make a better one.
Yeah.
So just to finish up,
Yeah.
I want to name Aaron Schwartz, because maybe you can tell us who he was.
Aaron Schwartz was an incredible activist who believed that access to knowledge shouldn't be behind a giant paywall or an expensive degree program. And he, during his life, worked relentlessly to bring better access to people around the world. One of the things that he did ran afoul of a giant corporation that was licensing their intellectual property, and they hit him
Charged him.
with a massive like life altering lawsuit, and he unfortunately wasn't able to go on under that pressure and under that attack for his having these really important, and I think honestly universal principles that we should have that knowledge. It should be free.
And but his legacy lives on, and you know, here you are, and with doing all this amazing work with your team and colleagues. So it's been a real pleasure to have you here, and I'm sure Nell has been.
Love it. Love it. And good luck with your next panel, which is called Queer Over Fear, Cross-Regional Strategies and Community Resistance for LGBTQ plus activists fighting against digital authoritarianism. All power to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure.